Ladoke, Akintola, àtúntìlé oríire ti dé. Tiwa ni ká máa gbádùn ní rẹpẹtẹ. Ọlọ́run ló ṣe yí fún Lautech. Agbára wa kò rárá. Ọlọ́run ló ṣe yí fún Ladoke. Agbára wa kò rárá. Ọlọ́run ló ṣe yí fún Lautech. Agbára wa kò rárá. Ọlọ́run ló ṣe yí fún Ladoke. Agbára wa kò rárá. Àwọn tí Ladoke Akintola ti dé. Pẹ̀lú orin tuntun oríire ti dé. Tiwa ni ká máa gbádùn ní rẹpẹtẹ. Àwọn tí Ladoke Akintola ti dé. Pẹ̀lú orin tuntun oríire ti dé. Tiwa ni ká máa gbádùn ní rẹpẹtẹ. Ọlọ́run ló ṣe yìí fún wa. Agbára wa kò rárá. Ọlọ́run ló ṣe yìí fún wa. Agbára wa kò rárá. Ọlọ́run ló ṣe yìí fún wa. Agbára wa kò rárá. Ọlọ́run ló ṣe yìí. Àwọn tí Ladoke Akintola ti dé. Pẹ̀lú orin tuntun oríire ti dé. Tiwa ni ká máa gbádùn ní rẹpẹtẹ. Àwọn tí Ladoke Akintola ti dé. Pẹ̀lú orin tuntun oríire ti dé. Tiwa ni ká máa gbádùn ní rẹpẹtẹ. Ọlọ́run ló ṣe yìí fún wa. Agbára wa kò rárá. Ọlọ́run ló ṣe yìí fún wa. Agbára wa kò rárá. Ọlọ́run ló ṣe yìí fún wa. Agbára wa kò rárá. Ọlọ́run ló ṣe yìí fún wa. Agbára wa kò rárá.
Àwọn tí Ladoke láti dé. Pẹ̀lú orin tuntun oríire ti dé. Ká máa gbádùn ní. Àwọn tí Ladoke láti dé. Oríire ti dé. Ká máa gbádùn ní.
Ọlọ́run ló ṣe yìí fún wa. Agbára wa kò rárá. Ọlọ́run ló ṣe yìí fún wa. Agbára wa kò rárá. Ọlọ́run ló ṣe yìí fún wa. Agbára wa kò rárá. Ọlọ́run ló ṣe yìí fún wa.
Hello. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. And we are glad to welcome you to the second biannual public lecture of the Faculty Officers Forum in the Registry Department of the Ladoke Akintola University of Technology. Without wasting any time again, can we please rise? Let us rise, please.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all and proud to serve our sovereign motherland.
Today we manifest. Grace of Holy Spirit to the table fruits of blessings. Grace of heaven, grace of us, always faithful excellence. Grace of heaven, grace of us, infinity and service. Infinity and service.
Please, let's be seated. Once again, we'd like to welcome you officially to the second biannual public lecture of the Forum of Faculty Officers in the registry of the Ladoke Akintola University of Technology. This morning, we have dignitaries to be called to special positions. Even after the registrar has said everybody who is here is important. So that we can have an organized society who identify the representative of the Vice Chancellor of this university, Professor Razak Olatunde Rom Kalilu, is this morning being represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Strategy and Development, Professor Adepoju Tunde Joseph Ogunkunle. You are welcome, sir. It is my pleasure to also invite to the high table, sir, the Registrar of the University, who is the Secretary to the Governing Council. In fact, it is the first time in the history of Lautech that we are having a female registrar and female Secretary to the Governing Council. I respectfully welcome to the high table Mrs. Olayinka Balogun. If I have the permission of the chairman of this occasion, who is the Vice Chancellor, I also want to invite to the high table representative of the University Bossa, Mr. Mukaila Akimbola. We are waiting for the librarian to join us or send our representative. Meanwhile, we have a member of the 10th Governing Council here seated, who is the Chief Medical Director of the Ladoke Akintola University of Technology Teaching Hospital, Professor Olawale Olakuleyin. Please come to the front, sir. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you please join me in bringing to this side of the high table today's lecturer, very respected Deputy Registrar and Head of Council Affairs and Legal Affairs of this university, Barrister Thomas ADEBAYO, ADEYI. I'm glad to also invite to the high table a very distinguished Deputy Registrar and Chairperson of the Faculty Officers Forum, Mr. Morufdeen Adeshola Folayowo. You please permit me to quickly recognize deans of faculties who are here present. Please permit me to welcome the librarian of the university, Professor Adefunke Sarah Ebijua. I was going to recognize deans of faculties. But before then, let me announce the presence of the immediate past registrar of this university, Deacon Kayode Ogunleye. You are welcome, sir. At this point, I will recognize deans of faculties, starting with the Dean, Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, Professor Frank Ebijua. We also have coming into the hall a very distinguished member of the Governing Council of this university, Professor Adejumo. We welcome you, sir. I'd also like to recognize the presence of the Dean, Faculty of Computing and Informatics, Professor Abigail Adetunji. We welcome respectfully the Dean, Faculty of Pure and Applied Sciences, Professor Michael Olushope Alade. You're welcome, sir. We have the immediate past Director of Academic Planning of the university here, Professor Aishat Bolanle Akinwande. You are welcome, ma'am. With the kind permission of the chairman and every other person on the high table, I would like to quickly recognize deputy registrars who are here present, starting from our deputy registrar, Student Affairs, Dr. Mrs. Olufunsho Oloke. We are pleased to have Deputy Registrar and Secretary to the Board of the ODL, Mrs. Olanike Adedosu. It is my pleasure, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to recognize specially Deputy Registrar Mrs. Victoria Mosumolo Olojede. I am pleased to inform us that we have the Deputy Registrar and College Secretary to the College of Agricultural Sciences and Renewable Natural Resources, who doubles as the chairperson of the Faculty Officers Forum, Mr. Morufdin Adeshola Folayowon. We have the Deputy Registrar Postgraduate School, Mr. Victor Ayodelopu Portion. I've introduced him. I will need to introduce him as many times as possible. Our respected immediate past Deputy Registrar of the University, Deacon Kayode Ogunleye. You are welcome, sir. I have on the list before me the Deputy Registrar Vice Chancellor's Office, Mrs. Adeladun Akinyode. We are expecting a very respected Deputy Registrar who is Director of Admin at the University Teaching Hospital, Mr. Aderemi Adediji. It is my pleasure, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to recognize Mrs. Juliana Oyetola. We also have Mrs. Adenike Makinde, a very respected Deputy Registrar. You are welcome, ma'am. At this point, let's quickly go through those who are celebrating today. Deputy Registrar and College Secretary, College of Health Sciences, Mr. Akanbi Akinwumi. You are welcome, sir. Will you please permit me to introduce those who are celebrating this morning, the faculty officers, starting from the Faculty Officer, Arts and Social Sciences, Mr. Sunday Bolaji. We have the Faculty Officer, Agricultural Sciences, Mr. Morufdin Adeshola Folayowon. Faculty Officer, Basic Medical Sciences, Mrs. Folashayo Ogunshina. Faculty Officer, Engineering and Technology, Mr. Olusegun Owolawe. Faculty Officer, Management Sciences, Mr. Taiwo Akinlade. Faculty Officer, Computing and Informatics, Mrs. Melody Falokun Peters. Faculty Officer, Basic Clinical Sciences, Mr. Samuel Aremu. Faculty Officer, Nursing Sciences, Mr. Akintunde Okesanya. We have the Faculty Officer, Clinical Sciences, Mrs. Oluyemi Oluyole. Faculty Officer, Pure and Applied Sciences, Mr. Ariyo Ogunkunle. We have the Faculty Officer, Food and Consumer Sciences, Mrs. Senator Adeshina. And we also have the Faculty Officer, Environmental Sciences, Mr. Kamal Dean Kola Olosho. At this point, we expect that everybody will have settled down. So we'll go to the main program. You please join me to earn my salary this morning as you clap loudly for the Registrar of the University, who is the Secretary to the Governing Council, our boss. When I say our boss, she is our boss in the registry. It is time for her to read the welcome address. So please join me in bringing to the podium Mrs. Olayinka Balogun.
The Vice Chancellor, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Strategy and Development, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and Innovation in Absentia, the Bursar, the University Librarian, Provosts of Colleges, Deans of Faculties, Directors, Heads of Departments, Heads of Units, the Deputy Registrars, ladies and gentlemen, I feel greatly honored to welcome you to this public lecture, the second in the series powered by the Faculty Officers Forum of this great institution. I'm particularly pleased because the Faculty Officers Forum lecture has come to stay. And not only was the maiden edition insightful, the impact has continued to linger. The organizers have also assured me that going forward, it can only get better. The faculty officers have undoubtedly drafted a topic in recognition of the critical role that the law plays in shaping the academic and administrative landscape of tertiary institutions. The lecturer too has been carefully chosen, and I am convinced that by the end of this lecture, new concepts will be introduced to what we presently think we know about the law, and those concepts will sharpen our problem-solving skills. I once heard of an employee whose line manager called into his office to ask why he was resigning his appointment. In the course of the discussion, the manager realized that he was not as surprised as the person he thought was resigning. Due to their closeness, the manager printed a copy of the email and showed it to him. When his statement that he neither typed nor sent the resignation mail seemed convincing, especially when he said he didn't leave his computer, the manager started believing that there might be a mystery to unravel. The CCTV footage of the camera covering the office was eventually checked, and it turned out that when the young man got up to use the restroom, his closest pal in the office got behind his desk, operated his computer for about 90 seconds within which he was able to type and send the resignation message and successfully delete the proof. Bringing this to the university system, which runs on law and its proper application. Did the young man resign? Is there a danger in leaving your computer open and unattended? Is it legal to password a university computer? Who would be held responsible for actions taken from your computer using your e-signature? What does the law say about unauthorized actions in the university? There are so many questions begging to be answered, especially in situations that we face in our day-to-day activities. As already known, the universality of law in the university involves principles such as fairness, justice, and accountability. And when narrowed down to our institution, there are values through which integrity and service, the watchword of the Ladoke Akintola University of Technology, Ogbomoso, are upheld. You will agree with me that the academic journey of every student in this university is governed by law, from admission, student conduct, and graduation. And for members of staff, the process of application, assumption of duty, and retirement are backed by law. Interestingly, there is a source for the law that governs the university, and applying the law too must follow certain courses, because if a wrong approach is adopted in doing a thing right, it will end up wrongly, no matter the intention. For instance, it might eventually all lead in one direction. Quite interesting exploits loopholes. That is why we have experts. I first discussed with him. Told him like, dear, come up and say demonstrate. I said, Shebi, well. Now, going forward, we need to reaffirm our commitment to upholding the law. We are seriously hurting the system. Really taking the laws into our hands and say the law is an ass. Abi? And that there is no ignorance in what? In law. He's going to tell us today. And none of us will go to jail. Now, we need to reaffirm our commitment to upholding the law and refrain from hurting the system. We need to consistently remind ourselves that we cannot do anything outside the law, and as such, we should know that the law and statutes of the university say, we should know what they say in every situation. I want to go on leave. Check our books. What does the law say? What does the regulation say? I want to go on accumulated leave. I want to go on whatever kind of leave we want to go. Let us consult so that after enjoying our leaves, we don't come back and we begin to panic up and down. Going forward, I'm sure we will all see the need to have a better understanding of what the law says. In one of the places where I worked, there was a member of staff that was working directly with me. So he missed a promotion by just one day. Because assuming he was to come, fell in that category, went to him and said, Shebi, you are working with the registrar. To me that, Mama, I want for you to know, for you, Professor Razak Olatunde Rom Kalilu, who has magnanimously favored the capacity building of administrative members of staff. So please, when you see him, when next you see him, please help me to thank him. Thank you. I hope this lecture will be an eye-opener for us and change those things. Lecture will be an eye-opener for us and change those things. Some of us might have sincerely done wrong. Because like of us might have sincerely done wrong. Because like I usually say, you could be sincere and wrong. And that will only make you sincerely wrong. And let me just say this. Instead of causing the darkness, we are busy causing the darkness. Why don't we provide illumination? We do not take delight in, punishing people unnecessarily. That is one of the reasons we have invited him to come and enlighten all of us, so that we can stop causing the darkness and provide illumination, and that we will not have anyone to blame for breaking the law. Because by the end of this lecture, I'm sure we are going to leave this place better than we came here. So, do not cause the darkness again. Let us provide illumination. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Ma, for introducing this type of forum. We appreciate the registrar, even though we can't appreciate you enough. May the good Lord bless you always. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to welcome the immediate past Vice Chancellor, Ajayi Crowther University, Oyo, Professor Timothy ADEBAYO, to our midst. You are welcome, sir. We are also fortunate and lucky to have with us a special guest, Professor Kolawole Balogun. We welcome you, sir. It is my pleasure to inform us that we have the Dean of Student Affairs, Dr. John Adewusi Adepoju, in our midst. I'd also like to announce the presence of the representative of Director of Internal Audit, Mrs. Iyabo Ojukutu. You are welcome to our midst. We have the Chairman of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian University, Comrade Hamzat Fajoye. Please be upstanding for recognition. We have a very distinguished guest of the lecturer, Reverend Dr. Olalekan Fatiloro. You are welcome, sir. Permit me to inform us that we have a special person here, member of the immediate past Governing Council of this university, Professor Adewale Emiola. We are pleased to have in our midst the Director of ODL, Professor Rafiu Ganiyu. We recognize the presence of the Chairman, Project Monitoring of the University, Professor Engineer Samson Ojoawu. You are welcome, sir. There's someone here who is retired but not tired. A very erudite finance expert, former Director of Internal Audit, Alhaji Olayiwola Adelani Olowokere. We appreciate you for coming, sir. We recognize the presence of the Dean Postgraduate School, Professor Abraham Olajide Amao. You are welcome, sir. At this point, we promise we weren't going to waste further time. Dean of Agric, Professor Azim Ige, please be upstanding for recognition. You are welcome, sir. We go back to the program of the day, and I want to seek the indulgence of the registrar and the vice chancellor that officially we want to stop introduction so that we can enjoy the lecture. It's okay. Well, we identified him without ceremony, and he deserves to be celebrated for donating to us a very special person, someone who is articulate, someone who has affected even the operations of this university. It is my pleasure to introduce the husband of our registrar, Professor Shingu Kolawole Balogun. Mrs. Ojukutu should come and represent the Director of Audit properly at the front table here. So with introduction done, I'm so sorry, another retired but not tired administrator, Alhaji Bashiru Akande, you are welcome to our midst. We appreciate you. Please let me call on somebody to speak to us and stamp this ceremony with authority, declare it open. Representative of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Tunde Ogunkunle, will read the speech of the Vice Chancellor and declare this ceremony open.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As you are quite aware, I'm here today to represent our respected Vice Chancellor of this great university, Professor Razak Olatunde Rom Kalilu. But I must add that although you can see only one cap on my head, I'm wearing two. There is a smaller one under the yellow one that you are looking at. Because I was invited first as the Deputy Vice Chancellor. Before yesterday, I was instructed by our respected Vice Chancellor that I should come and represent him here today. The day I received the invite from the organizers, I had the mind to deliver a goodwill message. And I remember I told the registrar yesterday, if you look at her direction now, you will be smiling or laughing, because you will think, Okunle Isha. Now, as a student of biology, I learned very early in life that the heart is the most important organ in the body of an animal, including a human being. In fact, the heart is formed long before the body structure is put in place. And the heart continues to beat throughout the life of an individual. In the same way, the registry is the heart of any organization. Whatever takes place in the university, for example, directives will come from the registry in one way or the other. In fact, before people can physically see a university, the registry must have already been in place. I remember when Lautech was to be established, the registry as well as the Vice Chancellor's office was in the secretariat at Ibadan. All of us, we had to apply to that place. And we wrote the registrar, even when the university hadn't been in place. So this narrative will show you clearly that the registry is an important organ of the university. If we recognize that, then the registry has no reason for not being very functional. Otherwise, the unit that is supposed to lay directive should not be found wanting. Otherwise, there is a problem. On that note, invoking my own cap, I want to congratulate the registry and the Faculty Officers Forum in particular for putting together this all-important lecture. And I want to also charge them that you should continue to let the flag continue to fly. That why? Because this is the second in the series. Let us sustain the tempo. Thank you. Now, I go ahead and read my boss's goodwill message or remarks. So whatever I read out here is in my voice, but the message is from the Vice Chancellor. The Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and Innovation, the Registrar of the University, the BARR, University Librarian, the former Vice Chancellors that are here present, the Chief Medical Director, Lautech Teaching Hospital, the esteemed lecturer of today, respected professors, retired administrators, ladies and gentlemen. It is great delight to grace this second edition of the biannual lecture put together by the Faculty Officers Forum of the Ladoke Akintola University of Technology, Lautech, Ogbomoso. When I attended the maiden edition, I acknowledged the novel idea, and I remember mentioning the need for its sustainability. I am glad that the Faculty Officers Public Lecture is on its way to becoming a permanent fixture. The American industrialist and business magnate Henry Ford once said, "Vision without execution is just hallucination." I will therefore commend the faculty officers who conceived this idea for not stopping at the conception stage, but seeing it through to its brilliant execution. You have done well. I therefore urge you to keep the zeal continuous and the fire alive. I will be doing great injustice if I do not acknowledge the efforts of the registrar. I have heard that in places she had worked, she built a stellar reputation of leading from the front. We can see positive we have not held back in ensuring for the challenges ahead. We have supported quite a number of trainings, and the reason is not far-fetched. Apart from evolving and sustaining our own administrative culture, we must always have a crop of sound administrators, not just for now, but supported some administrative staff members in Nasarawa State. Support has also been provided, and I believe that our dear faculty officers can see what I am seeing that will attract people from different institutions in Nigeria to sustain the temple. This is a very important phase in the life of our institution, Lautech. Recent trends have shown that we need to make people understand that how can this be done without making reference to the law? As administrator, you may therefore not need to be reminded that it is also laws, regulations, and council, the university senate, and the university congregation. Thankfully, we have a registrar who knows the rules and when to apply them. You must have heard that a leader without followers is like a general without soldiers. How well we follow our leaders, therefore, matters a lot. And as we follow them, because ignorance, they say, is not tenable. Sometimes, I read some reports. I will therefore call on administrators to get policy as well as the documents. Universities are governed by laws and usual institutions, the status, as well as the policies governing academic and administrative matters of such institutions. The limitation, however, has always been that people don't know the law, and where they know, they usually want to subtly violate it without facing the consequences. The public lecture of today is therefore timely. The laws, and that when you run afoul of them, similar to post, reckless, to allege that you are disliked, rubbing your hands on the blade of the law. In the days of old, the saying was, to whom much is given, much is expected. But nowadays, much more is expected. The support provided by the university with qualitative service delivery, it is only today we have noticeable efforts and noticeable effects in the operation. Enjoy the lecture and take away valuable insights. Clear the lecture open. Thank you.
Chancellor, we also thank the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Strategy and Development. Will you please permit me to go slightly back to what I said. I am told that we have in our midst members of Ayegun Baptist Church. Please, can we see you so that we can appreciate your presence? You are welcome, sirs. We also have members of Biannual Baptist Church. That's the church of the speaker, Shebikon. We also have in our hands here a very respected Deputy Registrar, Mr. Muftar Adejumo. Please, we want to see your face. You are welcome, sir. Mr. I'm told we have female lawyers in our midst. Please stand up so that we can recognize you. Female lawyers who are other members on the high table, respected deputy registrars, Mr. Tunde Akinlade, to come and read the citation of the lecturer.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lawyer Thomas Adebayo ADEYI, and request him to stand and remain standing. You're welcome. As we know, 1964 in Ogbomoso, Oyo State. The ADEYI, caretaker area, Ogbomoso. This journey from, he did his West African Examination Certificate Ordinary Level in 1983 at AUD High School, Ejigbo, Osun State. And a higher school certificate from Ogbomoso Grammar School in 1987 here in Ogbomoso. The gentleman ADEYI proceeded to the University of Lagos. He moved ahead into that same university and bagged a master's degree in law in the year 1990. Attended Nigeria Law School in Lagos and was called to BARR in the year 90. Our distinguished guest lecturer moved ahead to the Baptist Theological Seminary, Ogbomoso, and obtained a Master of Divinity in the year 2003. And also moved ahead into the same institution to bag a Doctor of Divinity in the year 2013 from the same seminary in affiliation with the University of Jos. The man standing before you here today is serving in the temple of justice as well as serving in the temple of our Lord Jesus Christ. His professional career, chamber experience. His pre-Lautech experience includes working as a pupil in chambers at AC Owu and Co. Number 1 Asaba Road, Enugu, 1992 to 1993. For those of us that were there in Asaba, in Enugu, in that year, we knew him as our big brother. He moved in to counsel in chambers at Tunji Arosonyi and Co. Unity Road, Ilorin, 1993 to 1994. And also move ahead to Paul Usoro, San and Co. Lagos, 1995 to 1996. And he became principal partner, Bayo ADEYI and Co. Ogbomoso, between 1996 and 1998. With his background in chambers affairs, he moved to Ladoke, Akintola University, Ogbomoso, in 1998 as Administrative Officer 1, and his appointment was confirmed on October 1, year 2001, and the confirmation is still retirement. Lawyer ADEYI was promoted to the position of Deputy Registrar in the university, a position he has held since October 1, 2012. And he is currently the head Directorate of Council Affairs and Legal Matters. Throughout his career at Lautech, he has held several key administrative and legal roles, including 1. Administrative Officer in the Registrar's Office, August 6, 1998 to December 13, 2001. Head, Legal Unit, the Vice Chancellor's Office, December 14, 2001 to January 16, 2012. He was the head, Vice Chancellor's Administration and Legal Affairs Unit, January 4, 2012 to January 18, year 2016. Our man was again appointed as head, Council Affairs Unit and Legal Matters from January 2016 to June 27, 2016. From there, he became the head, Vice Chancellor's Office and Legal Matters, June 2027, 2016 to March 19, 2019. Currently, he is the head, Directorate of Council Affairs and Legal Matters. He started that from January 19, 2019, and that is the position where he is still serving. While serving in the aforementioned offices, he has been involved in the following: offering legal advice on administrative matters. That is why Lautech is one of the best managed university in Nigeria. Be very fast and write memoranda of understanding. There are so many international organizations that are in partnership with Lautech, but the legal instruments that establish such partnership were drawn by our guest lecturer. He deserves a very big round of applause. Serving the University Statutory Council Committee meetings, including F&GPC and Tenders Board, and ensuring due process in contracts award. For those of us that have been in the system of the university from 1998 till date, you will discover that at no time was Lautech queried by the visitation panels, because our records are well kept and informed with the rules and regulations that establish the university. Once again, our guest lecturer deserves a very big round of applause. He has been making immense contribution on Lautech law. He made immense contribution to the review of Lautech law in the year 2020. For those of us that are here during that time, we will know what it means. It was during the time the issue of ownership was permanently resolved. And he acted as legal advisor, and is still acting as legal advisor to Lautech Consult Limited. Don't forget, our man is the legal mind behind all legal documents that's given the university orders. He is a lecturer. That is where non-teaching registry staff, they cannot be effective, successful lecturer within architecture and management sciences, and is a lecturer, course material developer and facilitator for the power achievements. Lawyer ADEYI has contributed immensely to the development legal practice in Nigeria and within our Ogbomoso here. In the university, he has received commendations. The first one is the commendation from the Vice Chancellor for his work on the case of A.B. Adewale versus Lautech, and as a Secretary of the Management Committee. A Governing Council commendation for his contribution to the restoration of normalcy in the University 2017, and for his work on staff audit exercise 2021. We should not forget that I've just mentioned it, his contribution to the development of law in Lautech during the time of the struggle for ownership of the institution. Contribution to the successful recovery of 154 million naira of the university's money trapped in the former Trans International Bank, among several others. Is a member of Nigerian Bar Association, the Association of Legal Officers of Nigerian Universities, ALONU, and the Association of Nigerian University Professional Administrators, ANUPA. The man that is standing here before you, if you call him a pastor, he will say yes. Call him a lawyer, he will say yes. Call him an administrator, he will say yes. Call him a community leader, he will say yes. Call him a pastor, I've said that, he will say yes. Call him a father, he will say yes. Call him a mentor, he will say yes. Call him human developer, our man will say yes. On your behalf, I welcome Lawyer Thomas Adebayo Adeyi to the podium once again to deliver his lecture.
The Vice Chancellor, sir, the Deputy Vice Chancellors, the Registrar, the Bursar, the Librarian, the former Vice Chancellors present, the former Rector, Polytechnic Ibadan, the former Registrar present, the former Bursar present, the provost of colleges, dean of the postgraduate school, deans of faculties, dean of students, directors, head of departments and units, members of faculty officers forum, the chairman and members of Lautech, the chairman and members of ANOPA, Lautech, the chairman and members of SANO, Lautech, the chairman and members of NATS, Lautech, the chairman and members of NASU, Lautech, the chairman and members of the organizing committee, members of the university community, my lords temporal and spiritual, traditional chiefs present, the chairman executive and all members of MBA Ogbomoso branch, my learned friends present. That's the only provision where you don't have a woman. We are all men. Friends and relations, distinguished friends of the university, distinguished guests, great Ladokites, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is with delightful joy and honor that I present this lecture on the universality of law in a university system, source, cause, constraints, and prospects. Jane Jacques Rousseau, in his work, The Social Contract, submitted, man is born free, but everywhere is in chains. For there is no liberty without restraints. No person or society can be without guidance of law. Wherever there is society, there must be law. Ubi societas, ubi jus. Law is a fundamental and inseparable component of any functioning society. For where there is no law, there will be no order, no standard, no stability, no predictability, as well as justice, such that true progress and development will suffer. What is law? The quest for a consensus or foolproof definition of law has been insatiable one. For instance, John Austin, who described law as a command, sees it as a rule laid down for the guidance of an intelligent being by another intelligent being having power over him. While Plato regards law as the embodiment of right reasoning, Thomas Aquinas, who believes law is an instrument to do and pursue good as well as avoid evil, views law as an ordinance of reason for the common good made by him who has the care of the community. Thus, an abecedarian view of law sees it as a body of binding rules in a society or community. It is only when rules involve the idea of obligation that they become law. The binding nature of law is the chain that every man must encounter. May we never be free from law. Without law, we walk in darkness. Like a blind person, we are rudderless and without bearing. More so that law is good in certain boundaries. There's nobody without boundary. Universality of law in a university system. Etymologically, the word universality derives from the Latin word universalis, meaning of or belonging to all. That's all. Thus in law, universality means a legal norm or system which is applicable to everyone and everywhere, covering all or a whole equally. University is from the Latin word universalitatis, meaning a whole. A university then is an institution of tertiary education for research, awarding academic degree in several academic disciplines in accordance with its mandates as provided for in the law establishing it. Law and university system seem to have something in common, and that is universality. A university is not just a citadel of learning, it is a citadel of law. Universality of law in a university system means general applicability of law in universities to university system, covering the whole or largely the whole of the system, from establishment to administration, admission, examination, graduation, teaching and research, intellectual property, student union and staff and student union activities. Dealings within and without are governed by law. When you come into the university, the first thing you encounter is law. When they stop to check you, that's law applying. When you enter the premise, maybe with a car, and you saw speed limit, that's application of law. In fact, without anybody telling you, you know that this environment does not tolerate noise pollution. It's different from the time that is law at work. So there's impossibility of exclusion of law in a university system, no matter what. In Lever, Siege versus Anderson, adopting on this, Lord Atkins said, in this country, amidst the clash of arms, the laws are not silent. They may be changed, but they speak the same follow, the same language, in war and in peace. Does law exist at all times and cannot not exist? This being equally applicable in a university system. So no one can behave as if law does not exist. In Nigeria Police Force versus Police Service Commission, the Supreme Court of Nigeria, Joro JSC, heard the mere fact that a person has persisted in illegality does not confer legality on the illegality. And illegality may remain so irrespective of how long it has been practiced. The fact that a law has not been enforced for so long does not change in its status as a law. By the close of this lecture today, we may discover that we have been committing illegalities. And this lecture is targeted, part of the purpose is to make us change from committing illegality. The above is so because the language of the law in such instance is domion legis alucundum noquam morito. The law sometimes sleep, but they never die. The source of universality of law in a university system. The front jurist source of law in the Nigerian university system is variegated. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is amended by virtue of section 1, 1, and 3. Is the supreme legal order of the state, the grand norm, the organic or fundamental law from which other laws or actions of government, either executive, legislative, judicial, derive their legitimacy. And where any law is inconsistent with provisions, that law, to the extent of the inconsistency, is rendered null and void and of no effect. Now let me explain this. Where in law we say something is null and void and of no effect, the simple meaning of that is that it is worse than nonsense. Worse than nonsense. So if you don't want to do nonsense, we should comply with the law. Is the prime source of law in a university? The Constitution is the prime source of the law in a university system. The president or governor, the legislature, state as the federal state as the case may be, all derive the authority from the Constitution is establishing any university, including ours, Ladoke, Akintola University of Technology. Every university is creation of law and administered by law. For instance, University of Ibadan in its section 1 provides, they are hereby established as the successor of the University College Ibadan. a university which shall be a body corporate by the name of the University of Ibadan, in this act referred to as the university, and shall be constituted in accordance with the provision of this act. It shall be the general function of the university to encourage the advancement of learning throughout Nigeria and to hold out to all persons without discrimination of race, creed, or sex the opportunity of acquiring a liberal education. And for the purpose of carrying out that function, it shall be the duty of the university, so far as its resources permit, to provide such facilities for the pursuit of learning and the acquisition of a liberal education as are appropriate for a university of the highest standing, and to make those facilities available on proper terms to such persons as are equipped to benefit from the use of the facilities. While Section 1 of the University of Ilorin Act states there is hereby established a university to be known as University of Ilorin, this are referred to as the university, which shall be a body corporate with perpetual succession and a common seat. The university may sue or be sued in its corporate name. The object of the university shall be to encourage the advancement of the learning and hold out to all persons without distinction of race, creed, sex, or political conviction the opportunity of acquiring a higher and liberal education, to provide courses of instruction and other facilities for the pursuit of learning in all its branches, and to make those facilities available on proper terms to such persons as are equipped to benefit from them, to encourage and promote scholarship on account and conduct research in all fields of learning and human endeavor, to relate its activity to the social, cultural, and economic needs of the people of Nigeria, and to undertake any other activities appropriate for the university of the highest standard. Section 3(1) of the Act equally provides us for the carrying out of its objects as specified in Section 1 of this Act. The university shall have power to establish such campuses, colleges, facilities, institutes, schools, extramural department, and other teaching and research units within the university as may from time to time seem necessary or desirable, subject to the approval of the National University Commission, to institute professorship, leadership, lecturership, and other posts and offices, and to make appointments thereto, to institute and award scholarship, fellowship, exhibition, bursaries, medals, prizes, and other titles, distinctions, and forms of assistance, to provide for the discipline and welfare of members of the university, to hold examination and grant degrees, and so. Yes, let me quickly go to what concerns us most. Similarly, Section 3 of Ladoke Akintola University of Technology Ogbomoso Law 2020 says, there is hereby established Ladoke Akintola University of Technology Ogbomoso. The university shall be a body corporate with perpetual succession and a common seat, have power to sue and be sued in its corporate name, and have power to acquire, hold, and dispose of movable and immovable property for the purposes of its functions under the law. The university shall establish campuses or colleges or facilities or faculties in other towns and cities in the state. The university shall be generally residential and non-residential for the undergraduate, postgraduate students, academic and non-academic staff of the university. Other public universities like University of Jos, University of Lagos, University of Maiduguri, among others, have such relevant provisions. Apart from the constitution and the laws establishing the universities, there are still legally governed, influenced, or guided as follows. Subsidiary rules and regulations. Take for instance status pursuant to made in Lautech pursuant to Section 18(1) of Ladoke Akintola University of Technology Law, which provides subject to this law, the university may make statutes for any of the following purposes: making provision with respect to the composition and constitution of any authority of the university, specifying and regulating the powers and duties of any authority of the university, and regulating any other matter connected with the university or any of its institutions, regulating the admission of students and their discipline and welfare, determining whether any particular matter is to be treated as an academic or a non-academic matter for the purpose of the law and of any statute, regulation, or other instruments made thereunder, or making provision for any other matter for which provision by statute is authorized or required by this law. Further, the law provides Section 19(2) that a proposed statute, that's regulation, shall not become law unless and until it's approved by 2/3 of members of Senate present and voting, and 2/3 of members of the council present and 40. While section 19.3 says that the proposed statute may originate from either the Senate or Council, just as it may be approved by either, but surely by both, before it becomes law. Section 19.4 of the law, however, additionally provides a statute which makes provision for or alter the composition or constitution of Council, Senate, or any other authority of the university, or provide for the establishment of a new campus or college, or for the amendment or revocation of any statute whereby a campus or college is. The condition of service for staff members is another source of the university, which are designed primarily to support the contractual rights and obligations created and agreed to by the parties themselves. Another is the common law, that's case law. Another is convention, establishing international standard and best practices. For instance, International Labour Organization conventions. Collective agreement properly adopted by the employer and employee becomes binding and enforceable. Another source is university traditions, cultures, and usages. The course of universality of law in a university system. The popular term, law must take a course, means that a legal process should be allowed to have its way without interference or obstruction. It equally involves due process, all of which would be impossible without the rule of law, supremacy of the law, equality before the law, respect for human rights, due process of the law. If it will ever be restricted or taken, the foundation of which an impartial and independent judiciary must be. Thus, law as a course is different from law taking its course. You can have law as a course, but it's not stopped there. That's only limited to knowledge. We must always allow law to have its course. Law taking its course, implying law having its effects. How then does law has its impact in a university system? In a university system, there are many organs, bodies, offices, officers, arrangements, establishments put in place to ensure law take its course. Some of which are hereunder considered with particular reference to Ladoke, Akintola, University of Technology, Ogbomoso, Oyo State, Nigeria, which is not dissimilar from what obtains in other public universities in Nigeria. Power of the visitor. Section 16 of the Lautech law provides for the office of the visitor, who is stated to be the governor of the state occupying the position of the owner of the university on behalf of the state. By first schedule to Lautech law, the visitor has power of appointment of the chancellor, pro-chancellor, chairman of the governing council, members of council representing various interests in the state, the vice chancellor upon recommendation of the council and constitution of the council, equally has the power of removal in accordance with the law. The visitor equally has power to conduct visitation or direct that such visitation be conducted in respect of every affair of the university, and when such is conducted, all bodies and persons comprising the university must make necessary every information, facility, and assistance required for such exercise in accordance with section 16(2) and 3 of Lautech law. Power of the governing council. By virtue of the provision of section 14(1) of Lautech law, the council is charged with the general control and superintendence of the policy, finances, and property of the university, and by section 14 and subsection 3 of the section have the following functions: maintain the buildings, libraries, laboratory, premises, furniture, apparatus, and other means needed for carrying out the work of the university. Participate in the making, amendment, or revocation of statute pursuant to the provision of this law. Make, amend, or revoke ordinance pursuant to the provision of this law. Cause proper books of account to be kept of all sums of money received and expended by the council, and of the assets and liabilities of the university in such manner as to give a true and fair view of the state of affairs of the university from time to time, promote and make provision for research within the university, facilitate the design of university strategic directions, reconstruct the university academic and non-academic system in line with the best international practices and current landscape of tertiary institutions, approve recipients for award of honorary degrees and other distinctions according with such provision as may be recommended by Senate, supervise the residence and control the discipline of students of the university, and to make arrangement for their health and general welfare, provide for the welfare of all persons employed by the university, including the payment to them of money, pensions, and other retirement benefits, and to subscribe to them of money, pensions, or other retirement benefits, and to subscribe benevolent superannuation or other similar funds for the benefit of such persons, their wives, widows, and dependents. Borrow money on behalf of and for the use of the university. Invest money belonging or appertaining to the university and not for the time being required to be expended for any of its purposes. Sell, buy, exchange, lease, accept, or otherwise dispose of any real or personal property on behalf of the university. So when we auction some of disused property of the university, we couldn't have done that without the approval of council. Enter into agreement for the incorporation in the university of any other institution and for taking over its rights, properties, and liabilities, and for other purposes not inconsistent with any of the provisions of the law. Determine in consultation with the Senate or university fees. Establish, after considering the recommendation of the Senate in that behalf, colleges, schools, facilities, board, departments, and other units of learning and research, prescribe their organization, consultation, and functions, and modify or revise same. Authorize, after considering the recommendation of the Senate in that behalf, the establishment of academic posts for academic staff of the university, and with the approval of the Senate, to suspend or abolish any academic post except a post created by this law or the statute. Authorize establishment of for the administrative staff and other staff in the university any administrative or other posts, and to suspend or abolish any such posts other than posts created by this law or the statute. The council may constitute boards, committees, other body for the purpose of making recommendations to the council in respect of its functions conferred upon it under or by virtue of this law. The council shall appoint a committee of the council to be known as Finance and General Purposes Committee, which subject to the direction and supervision of the council shall exercise control over the property and expenditure of the university and perform such other functions as the council may decide from time to time. From the foregoing, the supremacy of the university governing council is evidence, and no organ, body, or bodies, person or persons can afford to be on coalition course with the council, as they are all responsible to it. Power of the Senate. The Senate of the university is in consonance with section 15.2 of the Lautech law, is the supreme academic authority of the university, which is responsible for organizing, controlling, and directing the academic work of the university in teaching, research, and community service, and is empowered to take necessary measures for the advancement of the university as a place of education, learning, and research. Section, it is long, let me. Section 15.3 makes further provisions in respect of the power of the Senate. But let me conclude on the Senate with the decision of the Supreme Court in University of Port Harcourt versus Ogbomoso. The Supreme Court, in affirming the academic authority of the University Senate, states thus: the university has the sole power and responsibility to lay down requirements which must be satisfied before any student who is considered, in the opinion of the Senate, to be worthy in learning and character to award of its degree. The courts cannot and will not usurp the functions of the Senate, the council, and visitor of the university in the selection of its fit and proper candidate for processing and for the award of certificates, degrees, and diplomas. It follows that once Due process is followed. A denial of award of any degree of the university or withdrawal of same cannot be questioned. The power of the Vice Chancellor. The Vice Chancellor, by virtue of Section 10 of the University Law, is the Chief Executive and Academic Officer of the university, having the general functions of directing the activities of the university in accordance to the law. Other principal officers of the university are Deputy Vice Chancellors, Registrar, Bursar, and University Librarian are responsible to him. Is equally chairman of Senate, Congregation, and Convocation. Equally by the provision of Section 22 and 24 of the Lautech law, the Vice Chancellor is empowered to put in motion disciplinary machinery as law must take its course. Universality of the law and the role of the registrar. The registrar, while welcoming all of us to this lecture, has given an introduction to his role as the custodian of the university law. The registrar, whose office is created by Section 12 and paragraph 5 of first schedule of the law, is always appointed in accordance to the law and is the chief administrative officer of the university, responsible to the Vice Chancellor, Secretary to the Council, Senate, Congregation, and Convocation. The registrar is the custodian of the books, the rules, the law, and is placed in pivotal position in ensuring that rules are observed and not transgressed. Thus, necessity is specially foisted on all registry staff members, faculty officers, and others to ensure ardent compliance with established rules and regulations, as well as educates others to so comply. Language and law in university administration. Use of language, that's English, is very vital on the issue of law in university administration. Everyone involved in university administration must be aware of what he writes. As the uttered voice flies, the written letter remains. Fox emissa folita litera scripta manet. Thus one must be careful not to incur liability at the cost of being polite. I will give an example. The example is this. I am sorry or regret to notify you that your request cannot be granted or your application fails. I am sorry or regret. You are only sorry or regret what you are in default of or liable for. A forensic, that is legal, dissection of language may bring about what was never intended. So the language employed at all times must be laconic and free from ambiguity. Universality of the law and employment matters in the university. The bedrock of a system and operation of the university is the law, making legal framework central to university employment, as the university is an autonomous entity premised on academic freedom, to which the rule of law, human rights, and justice all combine to afford security and dignity of employment. A university, being an entity created by law, cannot do anything at all unless authorized by law, defining its powers. It simply has not got the virus, the power or authority to act outside the law. If it so acts, the act will be held to be ultra vires and declared null and void. Worse than nonsense. For the language of the law is quick es contra norma recti es injuria. What is against the rule of right is a wrong. Whatever is against the rule of right is wrong. From head to heel, law is therefore indispensable in a university system. University employee is equally bound by the law of contract of employment from the outset of accepting the terms and conditions of the employment. When the parties to a university employment are faithful to the terms and conditions of the contract of employment, then there will be less friction or conflict, and industrial harmony, which is germane to the attainment of the goal of the university, will be achieved. What is a contract of employment? In ADEBAYO and Lautech Nigeria Limited, the Supreme Court held that a contract of employment is a relationship between employer and employee based or agreed terms and conditions of the employment, which are central and crucial in proof of the employment. It follows that for there to be an employment between a university and a person, there must be a relationship grounded in law of contracts with attendant terms and conditions in line with the law and regulations of the university. As a contract of employment is the foundation, the platform, the pivot upon which a case for wrongful or unlawful termination of employment by the employee against an employer can be founded or predicated as, and its success or failure is entirely dependent on terms and conditions agreed to by the parties in their contract for employment. So our letters of employment are very, very important. Very important. You can't accept the terms of an employment that's expressed in your letter of appointment and thereafter you begin to complain because the agreement is already in existence and is binding. Also, a contract of employment, which is called a contract of service, is different from a contract for employment. A contract for service, which is a contract engaging the services of self-employed independent contractors, service providers, supplier, etc., and not of a permanent nature like the contract of employment. Even though contract for service has its due process requirements in consonance with the procurement and other relevant laws. Contract of employment are of three categories, namely master and servant relationship, where servants hold an office at the pleasure of the master. That's 2. 3, the employment that is governed by statute, employment with statutory flavor. Thus, a university employment is different from 1 and 2, where the employer can hire and fire even without assigning any reason for so doing. Employment by the university as a staff member falls within one that enjoys statutory flavor, in that the university must follow due process of the law establishing the university as well as other rules and regulations guiding the employment. Equally, the employee must adhere to the binding terms of the contract and the provisions of the university law, even when you want to disengage from the university, and condition of service in relation to his employment, both in discharge of his responsibility and rights and enjoyment of his rights. Such responsibility entail loyalty, faithful service, non-disclosure of confidential information, non-disclosure of confidential information. At times, I'm utterly shocked that before you end a confidential meeting, everything you had said, every of your decision is already in the marketplace. Those who are responsible for that, they are in breach of their employment terms. And the day the law wakes up, that will be sufficient reason for dismissal. No disclosure of employers' confidential information. Let me also disengagement from employment, their document. You can say that. In Dr. G.S. Obo and Commissioner of, among others, without authorization amounts to gross misconduct of employment. He does so, he has absolute power to do so. Take effect from the date the notice is received. Employment can be terminated or dismissed on good ground. Unreasonable cause provided procedure for doing so in the law is followed. Part of the good ground is as provided for in paragraph 104 of Lautech Condition of Service for Academic and non-other senior staff of the university, 2022. In respect of misconduct, which is not exhaustive, but in Central Bank of Nigeria and Aribo, the Supreme Court said, misconduct or gross or serious misconduct means conduct of such grave and weighty character as to undermine the relationship of confidence which should exist between an employer and an employee. However, such good ground or reasonable cause will not include the following: race, color, sex, marital status, pregnancy, religion, political opinion, union membership or participation. By Article 5 of International Labour Organization ILO Convention number 158, to which Nigeria is a signatory, and the court is empowered by the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria, 3rd alteration, particularly in respect of section 7(6) of the National Industrial Court to give effect to insubordination. To give effect to that, to the labor rights. Insubordination, we however constitute a good grant or reasonable grant, where the university has followed due process as provided for in the law, which includes fair hearing. Then the termination or dismissal of the employee by the university will be lawful. It should also be noted that for such employee to challenge in law the termination or dismissal, he must exhaust internal remedies provided for him in the university law. Constraints to universality of the law in a university system. There are several observable constraints to universality of the law in a university system. Lautech, for instance, some of which are enumerated as follows: paucity of fund. That weakens enforcement of the law. Say, for instance, we have a lot of trespassers on Lautech land. I will need money to fence Lautech land to ward them off. Also, shortage of security personnel. Another one is political interference. Another one is interference by traditional institutions. Another one is the non-residential nature of the university. Another one, centrifugal undercurrents working against the management's efforts. Another one, resentment to the law. Some people don't want to hear anything about law. They hate it. They believe the law is too strict. Another one, which has been said repeatedly here today, is ignorance of the law, which is not an excuse. Another one is working to frustrate implementation of necessary rules and regulations. Another one, employee taking the university for granted, e.g. unauthorized leave, overstaying unauthorized leave, failure to abide with terms and conditions of study leave. Another one is lack of understanding of what the responsibility of the office or position of the employee entails. Another one, emergency situation like strikes and other situations not emphasized by the law. Another one is lack of respect for law. Another one is twisting the law. You know, this is what the law says, but you don't want to apply. You begin to twist. Another one is selective justice. The common adage is, what is good for the goose is good for the gander. The prospect of universality of law in a university system. Just as the university is organic, so is law and its universality. As the university grows, law as well as its impact will become more feasible as our instruments of social engineering. There will be growing legal consciousness. Less friction, more freedom. The proposed establishment of law faculty by the university, as well as contribution of this kind of lecture, which I believe is, even though it's the second, but I know too well that we are still counting. We are still counting. I will still be counting. Inclusion of law into the curriculum of general studies courses will enhance this. Further, the growing legal consciousness will equally engender observing the solemnities of law, solemnitatos jurisant observandae, treating the law with honor, letting the law be the horse, not the cat. This will make staff members of the university, academic, non-teacher and technical staff to be more professional, meeting the objects of the university according to the law. It will also result in more constructive staff and student unionism, just as it will impact on the university, turning out more graduates who are more well-cultured, obedient, but not servile. Making the university largely residential will bolster this impact, while concerted efforts of all stakeholders in the university system to be committed to due process according to law will strengthen the university culture, values, autonomy, academic reform, as well as security of rights, including intellectual property rights, all of which will take the university to a higher pedestal of progress and development. Conclusion. From the foregoing, it is decisible that there is sense of law in the university system from head to heel. Everywhere you can smell the law. A disregard of the law portend evil. A lawless society will not be good for anyone. Where there is no alignment with the law, there is bound to be a decline of values, stability, order, peace, tranquility, progress, and development among others. Law can either be fiery or friendly. Law can either be fiery or friendly. And obstruction, manipulation, frustration, disregard, or deliberate disobedience of the law can make it to be fiery, while a positive disposition to it can make it friendly. Thus, we must always be on the side of law, employing law to attain justice, fairness, which is the highest principle of law. Every member of the university community must be aware of what is convenient, delectable, but not in consonance with the law, so as not to count unpleasant legal consequences, with all stakeholders being favorably disposed to the dictates of the law. The system, including all of us, will progressively be better for it. The Vice Chancellor, sir, this is the end of my lecture.
We appreciate our lecturer, Dr. ADEYI. This afternoon, we have gotten a testimony that the Forum of Faculty Officers have come to stay. Last year in 2024, a distinguished Deputy Registrar and Head Directorate of Student Affairs, Dr. Olanike Olufunsholoke, delivered the maiden lecture titled Faculty Services and University Administration in Contemporary Times, System Within a System. This afternoon, Barrister ADEYI has done us proud again. While I call on Dr. Oloke to come and pass the baton officially to Dr. ADEYI, for him to be able to pass it to someone else at the appropriate time, I want to appreciate the Registrar and the Vice Chancellor with other distinguished members of the high tables. Dr. Mrs. Oloke, please. While Dr. Oloke is preparing, can we have 2 questions from what Oga ADEYI has presented? So if you have a question, let me see your hand. I'm unable to see any. So the registrar man. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir. The Vice Chancellor, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
I think you want to finish so that he will go and sit down, then we ask questions.
So please, can we release the lecturer first? Go and take his seat.
Sit down, then we will give you time for the question and answer.
Thank you, Registrar. Thank you very much, our dear Registrar. In fact, I'm overwhelmed. When this idea came up by the new Registrar and faculty officers took it up, and the question or the thing was thrown at me to take the inaugural one, I was, I won't say shocked, but I didn't expect how it turned out. And being here today, seeing what the registrar has also allowed faculty officers to do for this second biennial lecture, I'm overwhelmed. And the lecturer today, in the person of our dear, should I say barrister, lawyer, Thomas ADEYI, has really done very well. There's a system of law also within the university system. I'm glad that I'm giving you this today, showing that what was started has continued, and I'm praying it will continue. By the next one, you two will be able to hand over the baton to the next person, and then it goes on. My dear administrators, let this continue. I believe it will continue. Thank you.
I'm proudly receiving the baton from my Oga, Dr. Mrs. Oloke. Interestingly, August 6, 1998, when I look at my appointment letter, she was the one that signed my appointment letter. And supposedly, let me complete the story. Supposedly, she was my first enemy in the university. Because when I didn't know anything about public service. So when I got my first salary, I rushed to her. I said, is this the old salary? When I saw what was the total, I thought that was my monthly salary, not knowing it was the yearly salary. I thank you very much for accepting me as I was. And the virtues that are manifesting in my life today, you are contributing. Thank you, sir.
Don't go. Please, the registry is proud of you. If you belong to the registry and you are here, please put your hands together for this man. You have done us proud. And I know even Lautech is proud of you. So on behalf of everyone here, both teaching, non-teaching, everyone in this hall, I present this certificate to you on behalf of all of us. Thank you very much. God bless you. We are proud of you, sir.
I thankfully received this certificate from my second family, which is Lautech.
Now we are releasing the lecturer to take his seat. Like I said initially, if you have a question, please let's see your hand on. Oh yes, sir.
Thank you. Recently, we read Barrister. Please take note of the question, sir. Recently, we read on the pages of newspapers that the National Youth Service Corps will soon begin to demand project reports of students from our universities as part of the requirements to admit them into NYC camp. Barrister, are you listening, sir? Everybody knows that results of examination, results of project reports are under the purview of the University Senate. Are there rules, regulations, laws, or whatever at the national level that allows the NYC to usurp this role of the University Senate to the extent that what has been approved by our Senate will now be subjected to another scrutiny in the NYSC camp, possibly by somebody holding a first degree. So what do you have to tell us on this with respect to university laws and our national laws? Secondly, there is a new law I learned that prohibits you from recording either voice or video of a person, even if you are part of that conversation. Must I have to inform someone that is about to commit a crime or is already committing a crime? Must I go and inform him or her that I will record you and he has to agree before I start recording? Or if I don't do that and I go on to record that person, is it tenable in the court of law? Will it not be used against me? Thank you.
Thank you so much for the wonderful lecture. I'm Afolabi Toye from LICT. I have two questions here. The first one, sir, we have laws and we have interpretations of laws. I want you to explain the difference between law and interpretation of law. Because at times when they are doing the interpretations of law, even the scholar, they do differ. Then who are to make laws and who are to do the interpretations of law? Then the second one, there was a panel that I faced some years back, myself and my colleagues, and we wrote a letter or a memo to the Vice Chancellor then. But when we got to the panel, they tagged it insubordination. They said we don't have the right to write directly to the Vice Chancellor. But in a case where what I wanted to pass to the Vice Chancellor might not augur well with my head of the department or my director, in that case, what should I do?
On the prospect, sir, for more clarifications, what reforms are needed to strengthen the universality and fairness of laws within the university context? Thank you. Mrs. Aderito Titilope, Administrative Officer.
Your question again.
Okay. My question is, what reforms are needed to strengthen the universality and fairness of laws within the university context?
Thank you. I'm Aziz Babatunde. My question tilts towards what the Deputy Vice Chancellor just asked, but because I don't want to be involved in rhetorics, I want to ask in clear terms, can a voice being recorded by me without somebody else's awareness be tendered as an evidence at any point? Secondly, sir, I want to seek your indulgence to kindly allow this your presentation be sent to us via email so that we can continue reading and digesting till we know what the law actually stipulates. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone in the house. Our lecturer, sir, I just want to see this opportunity to find out among the non-teaching staff, do we have right to proceed in our education. Take for instance, if my entry point is school start and I have passion to proceed in my education, did I have the right as one of the staff in the university? Can I proceed to higher learning? Higher education. To proceed, can I? Is it allowed in the system?
The last one.
Thank you, ma. Oyewumi Kazim is my name. Please, sir, I want to know what is the justification for the legal axiom that there is no ignorance of law, when we know in reality that sometimes people are not aware of what is used against them. So, sir, I want to be educated on the justification for the axiom that there is no ignorance of law. Thank you.
I will start my response from the last question. If, just simple answer, if ignorance of the law were to be an excuse, it will be excuse for everybody. Because that's the simplest excuse. I didn't know, I didn't know, I didn't know, I didn't know. I didn't know. It will be excuse for everybody. That's the justification. The fact that you didn't know that poison was poison will not remove the effect of poison when you take it. It appears we are still too far from our conditions of service. In respect of the second to the last question, whether as a non-teaching staff you upgrade your academic qualification by further studies, is provided for in our condition as of service, but you have to follow the procedure. You have to follow the procedure. Yes, when there is a breach of protocol, as a staff, order in a department or unit, writing to the VC directly. If your direct head will not endorse your mail, there's a simple way to go about it. You send a copy directly to the VC as advance copy. Advance copy. You tag it advance copy. So if in that instance your immediate boss cannot query you of insubordination. What is law? What is interpretation? You could see that in my paper I made reference to several court cases. In the court cases that I refer to, the law had been interpreted and settled. So whatever is interpreted to be the law by the highest court of the land remains the law. That is the interpretation. Yes, on the issue of evidence. If evidence gets to court, the way it gets to court is immaterial. If evidence gets to court, the way it got to court All important. A thief in a compound, not knowing there's CCTV. Yes, when you tender that in court. Oh, it was not with my consent. No. You can't say that. You can't say that. There was this short skit that I watched on internet. There was this little unruly boy in the house. Everything is said about the father, the mother, the brother, uncle. He didn't know that there's this small device that was recording everything. So the device divert everything he said. And as he was saying, stop now, don't talk more. The device was speaking more of what he said where nobody was there. In fact, if the recording was done without your consent, there are circumstances that evidence, they can become evidence. Yes, credible evidence. Now I will give you an instance. They said you are a thief. You are arraigned to give you said you are a thief. They said you are a thief and you said, no, I'm not a thief. You have laid foundation for admission of that evidence that recorded you to be a thief. You have laid foundation. So under cross-examination, such evidence can be very, very useful. Can be very useful. Yes, data protection law. That is true. Your data is protected. Apart from that, right of privacy is a fundamental human right. Yes, if your communication is hacked, your right is breached. Your right is breached. It's a fundamental human right. But when your communication constitutes a crime, that's the limit of that right. My friend, how are we going to topple the government and somebody hack that communication? That can be used against. The issue of submission of projects. What we read on social media is not ultimately reliable, because that does not offer the details. Are they requesting that the project should be submitted for re-examination? I think no. I think no, not for that. Not for that. What I read was that they wanted to keep it in our archive. Yes, and what the purpose, if we know, can be beneficial to the state. So until we get the details, we won't be able to give sufficient answer to that. It's like a doctor that has not done full diagnosis cannot give the prognosis that will be adequate. I don't think there's any other remaining question that I have not responded to.
Once again, we appreciate you, sir, and pray that the Lord continues to be with you. We regret to announce that some of those coming for our event, particularly the Registrar Westland University, Osun State, along with members of his team, are unable to join us. But I sent them the link because this program is being streamed live. We appreciate the intention of Mr. Sunday Olaosebikon Registrar Westland University to be part of us, and many others. I'm sure they will be here by the special grace of God, and they will have a reason to join us online. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate the Vice Chancellor, members of the high table, our special dignitaries. You will please join me in bringing Mr. Marufdin Folayowan to the podium to give vote of thanks. Mr. Folayowan, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Faculty Officers Forum, I stand to sincerely appreciate everyone for your support toward the success of this second biennial public lecture organized by the Faculty Officers Forum. Our heartfelt gratitude go first to the Vice Chancellor, Professor R.M. Kalilu, ably represented by our own Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor A.J.K. Ogunkule. We also try to extend this appreciation to all the management team, the bursar, the university librarian. I must also appreciate our dear respected registrar for his leadership role, for keep us on the right direction at all times. I must also appreciate all our invited guys, starting from the provost, deans, directors, chairpersons, and chairmen of various committees. So I also wish to appreciate our respected Deputy Registrar invited and all the friends of the registry that grace this occasion. May God continue to bless you all. Most importantly, before I drop, I wish to appreciate my Oga, who has given the most enlightening and inspiring lecture. Thank you, sir, for giving us the honor. May God continue to strengthen the Lautech.
We thank everybody for attending. Please let us rise.
It's
informed that the photo session will be outside of this hall, but let's remain standing while members of the high table take their leave. Thank you so much for coming.
It's lovely Lautech, you've kept the promise. Now we're singing